Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video we're going to talk a little bit more about the new Alliance raid for Ultimus Tier 6. Talked about this a little bit yesterday. I started to allude to the fact of when you should do these and calcing some or doing some calcs and just trying to figure it out from an Alliance standpoint and all that kind of thing. And I talked a little bit about these nodes and just how strong they were, and I know I'm not going to focus too much on this video on this topic, but I've seen some videos out there about how hard these nodes are, and it seems like it is quite a stretch. I've seen some 130k, 125k teams getting worked at this node, and these are 154, 155, 205, just kind of getting wrecked a little bit. Again, obviously composition's a big part that matters, but found that interesting. So, all that aside, the part that I really want to focus about on here is when do you switch from doing a Ultimus Raid 5 Tier 5 to a Ultimus Tier 6. Now, to me, it's all about rewards. So I'm going to switch over to a spreadsheet here that I put together, and what you can see here is I've got the raids on this side where it's Tier 6 and Tier 5, the number of players, the nodes, and just some calc here for the nodes per player. What I do here is you've got a Tier 1 bracket, which is this whole section, which is your 30%, your Tier 2 bracket, which is your 60%, and if you scroll over to the right here, your Tier 3, which is 100%. So all this stuff in here, I won't go through what's in the formula, but these all calc off of figuring out how many of these are on average per raid of what you can get. So for instance, your raid credits, if you see in the formula up here, I do all 4 and divide it by 4. So you get an idea of the average through what you get no matter where you rank at. And I do that for each one of these. So you can see in a Tier 1 30% how it compares from Tier 6 to Tier 5. But the truth is we don't really care how a Tier 1 rewards compare from Tier 6 to Tier 5. What we care about at this point, if you're an Alliance doing anything remotely decently in the raids, is how does it compare from Tier 6, Tier 5, or I'm sorry, Tier 3 rewards to your in your Tier 5 raid or your level 50 raid. How do these Tier 3 100% rewards compare to your level 65 / Tier 6 rewards, and when should you switch over? So if you're doing 100% on your level your Tier 5, this is what you're getting on average. You're getting your 958 call it 959 raid credits, 68 T2 blue ability items, 48 purples, and again that goes all the way up to your 55s, but again on average, and your fragments for your orbs. So the question is, let's just go to the first one. Here's your raid credits. When do you get 958 going Tier 6? Okay, 627 in your Tier 1 rewards, 837 in your Tier 2. That's not going to do it. And then so basically you don't get more raid credits until you 100% your Tier 6. All right, that sucks. So anyway, bold that. Your blue ability. Well, odd thing, and I talked about this in my other videos, the blue abilities, no matter what tier you have, is the same as your Tier 5. So really you don't get any blue. You don't get the equivalent of your Tier 5 100% until you get T2 your Tier 3 rewards in your Tier 6 raid. So let's jump to purples. So currently if you're 100%ing the Tier 5 raids, you're getting around 48 purples per raid, and you can beat that once you get to a Tier 2 60% reward on your Tier 6. So you will get better there if you can 60% it. Blue gear orb fragments, you don't get any of those in Tier 6 all the way down the line, so you just straight up lose that. Your purple gear orb fragments, you're talking about 3320. So your purple gear is another 60 wins. So if you're getting 100% in your Tier 5s and you're getting on average 3320 purple gear orb fragments, if you're 60%ing the Tier 6, then you'll get about 100, what is that, 60 more. So it's like, it's not too bad, I guess. And then that's it. So it's not until you get to 100% tier 6 that you get as much raid and blue, and at that point you might not be caring about blue, but you should, because you've got other characters you got to build up at some point. They're introducing Scarlet Witch and Miss Marvel and, you know, obviously many, many more. The purples you can beat, you know, you get more in the tier 60, so that's nice. Now the real question is here is the orange T4 ability mats, because your points per node in the raid season in a tier 6 are 250, and your points per node in a tier 5 are only 50. So what I did here is I looked at tier 6. If you 30% it, how many raid points do you get? You get, you know, basically just under 12,000. If you're 100%ing the tier 5, it's 7,500. So technically, if you only care about those raid points, that is better than doing a 70% or I'm sorry, 100% tier 5 raid. But that doesn't guarantee anything necessarily, other than a potential rank to get orange mats. And then obviously as you go up, you get way more. So you know, your raid points are dramatically increased, but it's at the loss of what we just looked at in all these other mats, where, you know, if you're not getting or you're barely getting as many purple, you're not getting as many red, you're not getting as many as blue, and you're not getting the blue gear orb fragments, and you're also not as getting as many, or no, I'm sorry, you do increase your purple gear orb fragments, but unless you're well, I guess if you're only 60%ing, you've got to wait 24 hours, so that means you're waiting to do some raids, and you can only do 14 in the 14-day raid season versus the tier 5, which you can typically get in, you know, anywhere from 2 to, I think 3 is a max depending on your raid keys. So you're losing out on even more. There's some math out there that, you know, you can see you significantly lose out on these mats. You just multiply by 14 the delta. But yeah, so when I'm looking at these calcs, I'm going, when is it worth it to jump to this? You know, yeah, everybody wants their orange mats, but is it really worth it at the expense of all these raid credits, you know, blues? I mean, you're barely increasing your purples, and you got to sit on it. And that's only per day. Again, if you go over the raid season, you're actually down. You lose mats because you don't get to raid as often. So that's something to think about. Right now, what I'm seeing is, you know, unless you're really just bored of the tier 5, and you want to try to get some purple mats, or I'm sorry, some orange T4 ability mats, it's not really worth it to go into this tier 6 Ultimus raid unless you're 100%ing it. I mean, from a pure mat perspective, you know, hopefully you can still get those orange T4 mats with just doing the regular T5s. But we'll see. I guess we'll see how this first raid week goes. I anticipate Fox Next eventually adjusting some of this to make the tier 6 a little bit more worthwhile for the blues. I expect they'd add some blue gear orb fragments and maybe bump up, you know, these purple and gear orb fragments and ability items for the T3 purples, just to make it a little bit more worthwhile to do your tier 2 raids. But we'll see. So if you enjoyed the video, please click subscribe below, and if you've got any comments or thoughts about, you know, what they've done here to the tier 6 and when you think you should jump into a tier 6 versus staying in tier 5, please add those below. I'd love to see it, and we'll see you guys soon.